Welcome to the channel. My name is Gio. This is my 2025 Toyota Land Cruiser. In this video, we are putting Dynamat Xtreme and Dynaliner on the doors. So front and rear door, plus the rear lift hatch. And we're gonna see how much the DB drops with that. If you watched my other videos, we went ahead and did the hood, the fenders, and the wheel arches with the same material, and we got a 12 dB reduction, which is huge. So we're gonna go ahead and do all of this in one shot and see how much it reduces the noise before doing the final video, which is going to be the roof and the floor. So we will eventually be tearing apart the whole interior, which I'm not looking forward to, but it must be done. So in this video, we're using the bulk pack Dynamat Xtreme. We've got Dynaliner in the 1/8 inch size, Isopropyl Alcohol with blue shop towels. That's for prep before laying down the materials. This is to pop the panels. This is to remove interior pieces without damaging them. A measuring tape, Phillips screwdriver, and a reloadable blade. You don't have to have reloadable, but it does make life easier. A knee saver, if you're over 30, you definitely want to get that. We have transfer tape to cut out our patterns with scissors and a Sharpie. So we're going to lay it out, cut them out. All these punches right here with a hammer to punch out circles to get the Dynamat Xtreme to fit onto the door perfectly. And I like to use this level right here to get long strips of Dynamat Xtreme cut out nice and even. And last but not least, save your cutouts from the door that you do first, and then flip them over and use them as a mirror so you have stencils and cut down the time massively. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I already tackled this front passenger door, which you can hear right now. Nice and solid. I have not done this one yet. So that is how I got those other stencils that I just showed you, because I already did this off camera. I like to do at least one door off camera so I get a feel for it and see what my game plan is for the rest of the doors. If you have the keyless entry, I have heard of some people applying a little bit too much material and it doesn't work. I went ahead and tested this all the way through when I did Dynamat on the door skin on the inside, the structure, and the door panel, and it still worked. So we're gonna go ahead and use that same process on the driver door, and then we'll move on to the rear doors and ultimately the rear lift hatch to see how much dB we can drop on this thing. Now, removing the door panel is relatively easy. You do want something about 45 degrees shaped to get way in there and be able to pull the clip off. So if you look, it's just held in with these pressure retainers on the left side, and there's one on the right, but if you can pop it out either way, it just comes right out, and it's hiding a Phillips right there. And you also need to get this guy out right here, which is a little bit harder, but just take your time. And it's got some more pressure retaining clips, which is also hiding two Phillips. So we'll go ahead and take those out. And be sure not to get the screwdriver down to scratch your door handle. And I like to put the screws with the clips so I know where they go back. Kind of keeps everything organized. Okay, now we can go ahead and move on to popping the panel off the door. Now this is a little difficult because the clips are super strong, but we're gonna try to just pop it out from the bottom and just give it a nice tug. Okay, so I wedged my fingers up as much as I could, kind of like wiggling them in till they got to, like, I don't know, the second knuckle, and just pull it, give it a good tug, because if you go slow, it is not gonna release. Now we're gonna go ahead and take off the door handle cables, which I'll have to show you after I'm done, and start releasing all of the wires. And we'll go ahead and move this off to the side. All right, so we got the door panel right here, and I'm going to put a picture of the cables on the top left So there's a white clip and a green clip, and there's a cutout on each clip. The cutout slides onto here. So you're just going to grab it and just pull it out. So now you have the cables released from this assembly, and then you still need to get the balls removed. So basically when you pull this out, the cable and the ball will swing, and you can just lift it right out. So that's what releases the cables from the door panel. And when you reinstall, you drop the ball back down in and swing it back and click it. Once it's clicked, you see the position of this pick right here. It can't release. So same for removal and installation, and it's actually pretty quick and effective. All right, jumping back onto the door panel, we've got the cover, which is the vapor barrier with a bunch of wiring, and the speaker. And then this is a cover that basically allows you to remove the mirror from the door. So we're gonna go ahead and remove this cover, the speaker, but we're leaving on that module and that cover. But before we do that, we need to get some things off the door. So this clip actually detached itself from the door panel and stayed onto the door. So we need to remove any of those that are still on the door. And in between this clip and the door is going to be a felt O-ring from Toyota that prevents rattles. And there's gonna be a few of them here and there that didn't come off with the other clips. So we'll go ahead and get those right now. So I've gathered all the felt O-rings already. Those are pretty easy. Now this, I put plastic here so it doesn't scratch the door because it is metal, but there's really no easy way to do it, but just kind of grab a hold from it and just give it a pop, just like we were doing when we pulled the door panel off. And you can see the felt O-ring right there as well. All right, go ahead and take a photo of this so that way you're not second guessing anything when you put it back together. Even something as simple as these cables being crossed on reassembly will just save you some time if you have a photo of it. But we're gonna go ahead and get some of this stuff unclipped and get this vapor barrier taken off the door, and then we'll move on to the speaker itself. So this is all released. So these guys twist right here. You want to get it onto a circle that will release it, and that just shot out. So it's basically a square, and once you get it into the right orientation, it'll just pop right out. So we're gonna go ahead and do this one and this one. There's 3 of them on each door. And then we do need to pop the clips. So there's clips just like the door panel, 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to go ahead and just get this one under here and pull at the same time. And we'll do that right here as well. And I'm telling you, giving it that jolt is really the key here. Oh, there's 4. I forgot about this one. Okay. So slide the cables out. And try not to wipe all the grease off of the ball ends. All right, so those are off. And I'm going to go ahead and just release these wires. So if you see here, this clip is holding this wire and this clip is holding this wire. So we'll just release them from the inside and get everything freed up. And there's just little tangs on the side. You could hit it with a pick or your finger. And now we got this piece ready to go off to the side. From there, we're gonna unplug the speaker and we'll go ahead and remove it. I don't recommend power tools on assembly, but there's nothing wrong with disassembly. Now this does have the JBL speaker package, so it might look a little different if you don't have that package, but the majority of the process will be the same. Now, one thing I did not mess with was this guy right here. I didn't unplug it or remove it. I think it's a crash sensor because of the yellow plug. I'm not sure. I didn't touch that, but I did release this wire harness right here, this one right here, and a few on the door. They're all basically the same, which is just these little tangs. So if you have a 90-degree pick, you can get this thing released and get it removed, and it just gives you more access to the inner door skin so you can apply the Dynamat better. So first things first, at least with my process, is just to wipe everything down that I plan on treating with some alcohol to prep the surface so that that Dynamat sticks on really good. Now remember how I said stencils save a bunch of time? So I left my notes on this thing. I said this is the middle, and this is the driver's side and this side up. So there is one brace on top, one brace on bottom. So this is going to be the middle. This is for the driver door and this side up. We'll go ahead and put it in here, and you can see that it fully takes up all that space. So I'm saving a bunch of time. And basically when I did all the work on the passenger side, this shiny side is the part that I peeled off. So save these things, they save you a bunch of time. So basically you get some transfer tape, you get as long of a piece as you need, cut that thing with some scissors, and then you're gonna peel this off. And it's a little clumsy, but you gotta get it in, stick it as best as you can. And I found the best way to mark out what you need is just get a Sharpie. So I just marked a little bit below this right here, all the way across. And then you have to peel it out, take it out, stick it onto this thing, and you know exactly where to cut. So that's what gives you the perfect piece of Dynamat, and you're not wasting that precious material. So we're gonna jump on to the next step, and that is applying some of this butyl rope. This is from Second Skin. So I'll go ahead and link this with the rest of the products in the description below. But we're gonna take a chunk of that off and we'll wedge it in between this door bar and the outer door skin. So you can see the factory puts a little bit, but that's kind of just to prevent rattling. It's not really absorbing any of the noise. So what I do is I go and I put a dab in between the OEM. So we'll go here, and then we'll go way down here in between these two guys. So I'm not going to put a massive roll all the way through. I did that on my Tacoma, but I don't feel like it's totally necessary. And then we're gonna go ahead and do the same here. So I'll squeeze a bit here and squeeze a bit in the ends. It's really hard to show you because we've got the structure in the way, but I'm gonna go ahead and apply it and I'll show you the final result. All right, let me bring you closer so you can see what we did here, but I just went in between each rib on the bottom of this and on the top. And then way up there, I did the same just on the bottom end of that. I didn't go above any higher. And then down here we went and, let's see if I can get a better view for you guys. We went and just went in between each dab with the exception of the very front, which you can't because this pole starts getting really far from the door. You can see I fit my whole hand. Now we're gonna go ahead and get these stencils placed onto the Dynamat Xtreme and cut out so we can start laying that into the door. All right, let's get you inside so you can see the final result. So we've got that piece way up there and this middle piece just taking up as much space as we can. I put a little piece right above the door boot, and then this thin one that goes all the way across, way clear back in there. So right there you can see that extension piece that I put just to make up the rest of the door. And we're giving ourselves a few inches from the door handle just to be safe. But I do get closer with the Dynaliner. I do get a little bit closer, but that's just closed cell foam, so we don't have to worry about it. But right here you can see that larger piece that I put underneath the upper door reinforcement, and there's two final pieces right there that I put just because they were flat and easy to get to, so hopefully that breaks down a little bit of noise up there. Anyways, let's get on to these. They're super easy. You'll actually see how I use the transfer tape to cut out these pieces right now, and then we'll just put a nice thick piece all the way across right here. And be sure not to cover up some stuff like this for the clips, but there's nothing right here, so we can go ahead and cover those two up. All right, that took a little while, but we're all done. You can see I went ahead and did basically the entire center rib section of that reinforcement. So now we're ready to move on to the next part, which is putting a little bit on the door bar itself. So I cut about, I don't know, about a 1/2 inch, and I just do a long strip all the way down. So we'll do that one. I did add a couple of pieces here and here. And what I want to do now is plug in the wiring. We'll go ahead and put the switch on. I took it off the door panel, and we'll plug in these guys right here because they're all important for making sure that everything works. I'm going to go ahead and plug it all in and make sure that the keyless entry works before we put the Dynaliner on the inside. So with this, we don't need to feed the cables through or anything. We're just going to put it on with this one clip so we can test fit everything. This one's very important because that handles the door lock. And if you forget which one's which, they do mark them with a Sharpie, so the lines will match right up. This is for the door light on the door panel, so we don't need it right now. And where does this go? Black switch on here. Be very careful when you close the door. Make sure that it doesn't smash on anything and break. We are just doing a quick dry test. So we'll go like this. We're going to lock it. So it's working from here. I'm going to step quite a ways back and make sure that it's reaching with the unlock on the key fob, which it is. Now I'm way back. I'm like 20-30 feet back. I'm going to lock it and walk up with the key fob, and we're going to make sure that the keyless entry works, which it does. So now I'm more comfortable in completing the rest of the process. I'm not sure what some of the other guys did online that reported the keyless entry not working, but I went ahead and just put everything back on and made sure it worked, even on video for you guys, just so we know that my coverage is okay and that we're not messing up any of the factory systems. Now that we've got that done, we'll go ahead and put a giant sheet of Dynaliner on the inside, and then we can move on to putting some Dynamat and Dynaliner right here, a few spots on this piece, a little bit on the door panel, and then get this all put back together. And just like that, we've got the door bar treated. I did it off camera because it's really easy, but I went from that end way clear back to the end over here and just rolled it on. Be sure you're rolling on your sound deadening materials. If you can't roll it, use a flat plastic scraper and just make sure it's fully stuck to the metal. It makes a big difference in the end. Enough with that rant. Let's go ahead and get the Dynaliner installed. And like I mentioned before, it is one giant sheet. So this I had already copied from the passenger door, which if you're worried about that whole process, we're gonna go ahead and do everything from start to finish on this door. So you'll see how I cut and transfer tape everything. But right now, since we have the stencils, we're gonna go ahead and speed up the process. So this giant sheet is going up in here, and we'll have to cut around the door handle, you know, that little piece right there. And it's nice to have an X-Acto knife or just a fresh razor blade and just cut around here so that you can get this clip put back on. So it's gonna go from basically very top right there all the way just above this bar. Then we have to do a strip of Dynaliner on the bar itself, and then a strip of Dynaliner below the bar. So I wasn't able to get one giant sheet all the way around everything, but it's still going to provide plenty of coverage. So this one is a pain, but it's totally worth it. This is closed cell foam. It's moisture resistant, so anything that gets through the window seal is gonna hit here and just wick down. You don't have to worry about this thing causing any issues. So we're gonna go ahead and just start peeling it. It's pretty tough. There's really no easy way to do it, but it's just the best way to do it in my opinion, as one single sheet versus a bunch of different patches. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing folded down. All right, so I like to just fold it down and then slide it in. That way you can peel it down and the rest isn't getting stuck. And we're gonna start just below the upper reinforcement so you can see that butyl at the butyl rope that you put in earlier. You're not covering it. Just gonna start right below it. And we'll go ahead and get our X-Acto knife and just give ourselves some space around this door handle. Careful with the wiring. And I got it a little crooked, so I want it to look nice. We'll go ahead and straighten it out. All right, that looks much better. Okay, perfect. So now that I've got it at a pretty good spot, I'm gonna go ahead and work my way down and push with your fingers on this ridge right here. So that it sticks to that first. You don't want a bunch of air pockets. So if it gets stuck, you can go ahead and just lift it up and get it where you want it to be. From here, I'm just gonna take the whole backing sheet off. Okay. And then we'll round it and just push up. You're just trying to get it to fully form over everything as best as you can. Then we'll go ahead and round it right here. And don't forget about this clip. And you need a little bit of space around the clip so that that base can contact the metal and fully seat. And now we could put on our clip, make sure it snaps, and you're good to go. So keep moving down. All right, we got that thing installed. It was a pain, but it's totally worth it, and it's going to help insulate and keep noise down, so it's doing double duty. Anyways, we still have to do the bottom, so basically the door pipe and just below that, which we already have our stencils for. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this out of 1/8 inch Dynaliner and put it inside the door. Okay, we've got the door and just below the door treated in Dynaliner, so now we can move on to the inner door structure. Now, one thing I want to note is that these thin strips right here are actually going to be going on the inside and giving us some sound deadening from right here. The door panel cover is just about there, so we do have some flat pieces of metal that could benefit from some Dynamat and Dynaliner, which we'll go ahead and do on the inside. So all the way, basically all under here, all the way across, and then just back up by the door speaker. So I saved myself one stencil to put this guy in right here, which we're gonna do. After that, I'm going to put transfer tape paper all over the door, and then we'll go ahead and mark out what we want to cut, and we'll peel them all off and then cut them out of Dynamat. Okay, so this is the result of laying out all the transfer tape and marking all of the spaces that we want to cut. So we'll do a bunch of hole punches on those pieces. This is all gonna have to be manually cut. I went ahead and Sharpied the parts that I know we're going to discard, so we can peel each one of these off one by one and start cutting them out of Dynamat Xtreme. And that's basically the same process I had done for that one. I just didn't save all of those as a template because they're very intricate. So I just do them freehanded on every door. I figured that one was just a big enough square with a couple of circles that it wasn't a big deal. So that's why I did have a stencil for that one. But I had to do all of this off camera because I was referencing the photos I took of the other door. That way I can get them as close to a mirror as possible. Once we get all the Dynamat cut out, we can go ahead and start laying it out and rolling it out. Door is almost there. We have all of the Dynamat put on, which is essentially a mirror of the passenger side, and we just need to put a bit of Dynaliner on here. Now I'm only gonna do about from here that way with Dynaliner. This way I'm not going to touch it because that black plastic trim piece sets in there and covers quite a bit of the area. Now this doesn't have a traditional vapor barrier that's plastic. Otherwise I would have just done one big sheet similarly to what I did on my Tacoma. But that plastic barrier, it has a seal on it that's nice and tight. So we'll just put a little bit of Dynamat and Dynaliner on that piece to keep any vibrations at bay. And I don't really think it's that important to put any around here. It's such a small amount. I think most of the work is being done by the inside anyways. This is the trash can I keep on hand. If you could keep one on hand as well, anytime a small breeze comes through, that stuff goes flying. And you can see that that transfer tape really helps cut a bunch of these weird oddball shapes out of the Dynamat. And anytime I disappeared off screen, I was getting one of these punches that's been pointed a little bit to cut and just hammering away, make sure you don't hit your fingers. But yeah, these are all the pieces that we cut out right here, which is gonna be for all the bolt holes, all the clips, all of the wiring looms, things like that. So now we can move on to just putting that Dynaliner, and we can put the door panel back together. All right, now this piece is done and ready to go onto the car. So we put Dynamat and Dynaliner on some key areas. Now, don't forget to flip this thing over and make sure you're not missing any felt washers. So I got 1 and 2 missing, and then we're gonna go ahead and use these clips to put it back onto the door by pressing it in and spinning it. Okay, so we want to make sure that the wires are clipped back in. I unclipped a bunch of this stuff when I was doing the inside, so it's all put back together. And we do need to feed these cables in through this hole right here. And from there, there's this little tunnel right here where this clip goes. And we'll just make sure everything else is clear. This goes right here. Okay. All right, so we've got the cables in and the wiring is good. We'll go ahead and snap 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll put these things back in. So circle will be unlocked. That is locked. Just do the same so they all look the same. And that is nice and secure. So we can go ahead and we'll save this for later, but this would clip here and go in here and plug into there. But I want to leave this a little bit loose so we can get some of the Dynaliner installed on this side. Okay, so we've got a 7.5 inch wide by 23 inch long sheet. Now this is different than the Dynamat where I don't punch out everything before laying it out. This is going to be laid out and X-Acto knifed along the way. It just is an easier process for me. And that's one reason why we got these harness clips loose. That way we can feed this in and just start from the top down. And just be sure to get in all the grooves and just work your way down. So from here, we don't have anything in the way until we get to this bolt for the window regulator. Let's see, let's go this way. We've got a clip here for the wire harness. And you want a fresh blade, otherwise it's just going to be dragging and pulling the material. And we've got a bolt here. It's another one for the window regulator. We need to cut this out for a clip. From here, it is a clear shot down. There is obviously this plug right here, but it doesn't go anywhere and you don't need it to change the regulator. So I'm gonna go ahead and just keep on moving down. we just need to clearance this for this last window regulator bolt. And now we can clip these in, tug it, and make sure it's actually seated. And we are free to move on to the rest. Okay guys, this is the final form of the inner door structure as far as material goes. We've got the Dynaliner installed, and I put the speaker back and started plugging in some of the harnesses into the door with the clips and into the speaker and other components like this. So I just ran it all back in preparation for reinstalling the door panel, which you can see right here. I did apply Dynamat in quite a few places. And I'm not putting Dynaliner because I feel like it's a waste of materials. It's not going to be doing that much on the door panel, whereas it'd be making a difference on the inner door structure and on the inner door skin. So right here, I'm just going to show you everywhere where I put it. There's actually this material that covers the door and kind of tucks in right here. So there's this guy right here, and it also tucks in just like that. I went ahead and popped off the lower light, so that way when I install it, I just need to fish the wire through, and then I could connect it and re-plug it instead of having to put that wire in, which kind of keeps the door panel really close to the door. And then I put the clips back if they were missing, and the foam as well. So all the foam is on the white clips, and here's some more Dynamat. I went ahead and just kind of put it in a bunch of key areas that I felt would make the biggest difference. Let's go ahead and get this door panel installed. I am tired. It is 3 p.m. I've been out here since 7 a.m. and I'm ready to finish up this job. All of that time has been on this one driver door. That's even with those extra stencils that I had from the passenger door. So this process takes a long time. When I did the passenger door, I split it up in hours over the course of a week after work just to do that one door. So anyone could rush the job. It's going to be sloppy. It's not going to look good or perform well. Take your time, do it right, and don't rush it. Okay, so the cables are installed, and now we can move on to getting this thing clipped in on top, and then go from the top down. Let's make sure this wire is fished through properly. We'll go ahead and plug this one in. Put this screw back on. And this clip back in, or this cover, sorry. So that's done. And then these two guys behind the door handle. And this last cover can get clipped in, and we are done. Let's go ahead and close this thing and see what she sounds like. Solid. One last thing we need to do is double check that the keyless entry works, and if your mirrors no longer fold automatically, don't worry. All you need to do is turn the vehicle on and then click the auto button and make sure that light is green. Once that light is green, then it'll open and close whenever you lock and unlock the doors. Anyways, this thing is done and complete, and the keyless entry still works. Mirrors fold, no lights on the dash. We are good to go to continue moving forward on the rear doors. All right, so we're gonna put a stop to the video here. At the beginning of this project, I mentioned that we're going to do sound dB levels before and after for each stage. And those stages were the front clip, the doors with the rear liftgate, and the roof and the floor. Now this video is very long because I want it to be as thorough as possible, and we still need to do the rear doors and the rear liftgate before doing the sound dB test. So hopefully in the next video I could do the rear doors and the liftgate. If not, I'll split those up into another 2 videos. That way it's not long and drawn out and super technical in one sitting. So we could break it apart and we'll do sound dB levels once the doors and the rear liftgate are done.